So after graduating high school, I really didn't want to go to college, but I received a scholarship where I could be given free tuition to my choice of a number of state schools. And I was born in Fitchburg. I grew up in Leominster, the next town over. So not wanting to go to college and wanting to keep things simple, I stayed at home and enrolled at Fitchburg State as a commuter. Because I didn't want to go there, I didn't have a major, I had no vision from my college experience. So after 3 semesters, I found myself really floundering and just at a loss for vision and purpose in my education. A friend of mine, a family friend of mine that went to the same church as me, had just come back from Southern California after going through a 2-semester-long discipleship program. She was catching up with me and just really excited about the experience that she had. And she asked me, like, "Yeah, so how's college going?" And I was just honest with her and told her, it's okay. I don't really want to be there, but I'm trying it out. She really strongly encouraged me to take some time off and try this program that she had just gone through. So I did. I withdrew from my classes and started planning to move out to California for a year to do this program. And it was really a life-changing experience for me. If I had to pinpoint a time in my life where I felt like I guess like people like to say, received a call to ministry, it was that season. I had some really great teachers and mentors at that school that called out some giftings in me and walked with me through some questions about scripture and about life, and really felt like God was changing my trajectory course for my life. So after that year was done, I moved back to Fitchburg, reconnected with that friend that suggested I go out to California, and my pastor, and the 3 of us came up with the idea of starting a school of ministry, like a sister group of that program, but in the Northeast. It was just 6 months of faceplant after faceplant, or just like you can't get traction and nothing's really working. And I honestly found myself in that season, in that inability to get traction with where I felt like the Lord was calling me. I found it bringing me to a point of frustration with life, and at some moments anger with God, feeling like he led me in a direction and then just nothing happened. So I started grasping for opportunities, grasping for fulfilling my calling in my own power. One day, in the midst of some prayerful frustration, I really clearly felt the Spirit say to me, "Go back to college." And I really didn't like that because I had no desire to go back to college. I really didn't want to be there. I wanted nothing to do with college. But what are you going to do? When God tells you to do something and you can't deny that it was from God, what are you going to do other than say, okay? Or be like Jonah and run the other way. So I re-enrolled at Fitchburg State because I didn't know what else to do. It was right there in my hometown area. I went there for 3 more semesters. I had to pick a major, and I had still no idea what to pick. But I knew that I had a fascination with language. So I changed my major to English. I tried a few different concentrations. I eventually realized that literature wasn't the angle on language that I really enjoyed. So I started taking some Spanish courses, considered doing some other language courses. And in that semester, when I started studying Spanish again, Fitchburg State announced that spring that they were going to offer 2 semesters of beginner Mandarin for the following school year, fall and spring. And at the time, I was really interested in East Asia, especially Japan. And I was applying to some other universities to study Japanese. But in the meantime, I figured if the school I'm already at is going to offer Chinese, that's the closest thing I'm going to get here to what I really want to study. So why not? So I tried it. I studied beginner Mandarin for 2 semesters. And the first week of May, at the end of that school year, the last week of classes, the teacher pulled me aside in class and said, "Stephen, you really have a talent for this. Don't give it up. So what did I do? I got cold feet and I gave it up. So for another year and a half, I left Fitchburg State again. I moved back out to California. I felt like I just needed a gap year to reflect and figure out the direction that God was sending me in. Because he told me to go back to college. I felt like he called me to ministry, but then I discovered this fascination with China, and I was a little confused. After a year and a half, my circumstances in California fell apart, and I had to figure out another direction to go. Doors were just closing, and I couldn't stay there anymore without just living alone, which is really hard to do in California. So I applied to Gordon College in Wenham, Massachusetts on the North Shore, and received an acceptance letter immediately when I applied more than 2 weeks late and past the deadline. So I started changing plans, and I transferred to Gordon College. At Gordon, I studied linguistics and Chinese because they didn't have a full Chinese program. In order to finish my Chinese minor, I had to study abroad. I started making plans. In the midst of that, I also bumped into an organization called ELIC, English Language Institute China. They were recruiting at Gordon College during their missions week, and just had a great conversation with the recruiter, heard about their programs, heard about some of the amazing things they're doing in China and other countries around the world, and how they train and equip and send Christian educators around the world. I signed up to do volunteer teaching with them. In order to save money, I paired it with the summer right before my study abroad semester in the fall. So I spent 6 months in China in 2014. That time was amazing. It was really hard work. It was exhausting. But my language ability and my cultural awareness took off. And I discovered that I really wanted to go to China for a while.